So, who here still doesn't know that David Benioff made X-Men Origins Wolverine?
What? Ooh, that's gotta hurt.
Well, looks like Dumb and Dumber have returned, and they are just as retarded as ever. Oh no, wait, sorry, I'm just a bitter piece of shit who doesn't like to have his expectations subverted, apparently. Episode 4 of Season 8 was just as retarded as Episode 3, maybe even more so. Before we begin, let me just say two things. First, I want to just say thanks again for the response I received on the last two videos. I'm still overwhelmed by how well they were received, and still laughing my ass off at all the people who were butthurt about them. It's all very entertaining, but as I said in my follow-up video, this channel will no longer cover Game of Thrones after Episode 6 is finished, so fair warning there, I don't want you to be misled. And secondly, I'd like to outline some positives before tearing this episode to shreds. The acting in this episode was great. I can't think of a single bad performance in this episode, except perhaps Missandei, who looked surprisingly at home despite being about to die. However, we will definitely get to that. The actors have mastered their characters. Just about every character interaction felt as authentic as can be. Despite my disdain for Dumb and Dumber, I do love these characters. So well done once again to the actors for bringing them to life with increasingly brilliant performances. The character interactions are the best thing about the show. I loved the feast at the beginning of the episode. It reminded me of the victory feast at the beginning of Return of the King. Torment Giantsbane is still hilarious as ever. Jaime got his dick wet, so kudos to the Kingslayer. Brienne was happy to let a sword hit her for once. And Jon Snow told Daenerys that he's not comfortable fucking his aunt. Still kind of annoyed that he's her whipping boy, but we will get to that as well. Gendry became Lord of Storm's End, so hell's fucking yeah. Respect my boy Gendry. Thankfully, Arya's character was still respected when she turned down Gendry, saying that she's not a lady, and that she's just not meant to be that. Not to mention she's got unfinished business with the Queen, as we all know. She only said her name a few thousand fucking times in Season 5 instead of training. And I really enjoyed Jon's speech for the Fallen. As bad as the long night was, Kit Harington's delivery actually made me care slightly more. You did your best, Kit. I dub you OG Harrington. Now let's get into this shit. So everyone's having a great feast celebrating the long night of subversive dog shit. And then Gendry for some reason wants to find Arya, because you don't just stop with a taste of Arya. Our boy's got an appetite now and he wants more. So Gendry goes off to give Arya his hammer, but Daenerys stops him. The writers actually wanted to make you think Daenerys would kill an innocent bastard like Gendry. I knew exactly what she was going to do. As soon as she called him by name. And how the fuck did she know Gendry's name? I guess we can assume that she learned Gendry's name from all of Gendry's great deeds. Gendry was the one who volunteered to go beyond the wall with Jon. Gendry is the one who asked the Night's Watch to send their teleportation raven to Daenerys. Gendry just fought the army of the dead, and the writers really expect us to believe that Dany is going to have him killed. But no, our expectations are subverted! In Dumb and Dumber's eyes anyway. And then Daenerys instead gives Gendry his father's name and makes him a lord. Now, I was happy to see this, but it kind of came out of nowhere and the subversion attempt was pitifully weak. Like I said, I actually enjoyed the beginning of this episode because of the characters, but there were some weird moments such as that. Then Daenerys exits the room because Jon's getting all the attention. It was actually nice to see Jon Snow having fun for a fucking change. But then Daenerys finds him later and she's so insecure and paranoid if anyone finds out that Jon is a Targaryen. Why the fuck does she even believe him? He just told her one night ago. It's true, Jon is a man of his word, but since when was Dany so trusting? She exiled Jorah Mormont because he used to inform on her, despite him risking his life for her more than once. But now she's just accepted that Jon's her nephew, like it's gospel. This is just retarded. Anyway, she begs Jon not to tell anyone, despite Jon publicly bending the knee to her, and him telling her that he doesn't want the throne. He wants to at least tell his sisters, though, that he's not a bastard, which I can respect. But because Dany feels threatened by Sansa, she begs him not to. This drags for quite a bit, and is pretty pointless. But it's not as pointless as another scene we are going to get to in a moment. Listen, Dumb and Dumber, no one cares about Jon and Dany. They are the most unnatural, forced, on-screen couple in television history. Every time Dany says I love you to Jon, I don't buy it. Nobody buys it. And seeing Jon bend over backwards for this bitch is also demeaning to Jon, because I don't buy that he's in love with her at all. Anyway, we go to the War Council and Dany wants to immediately take her army to King's Landing to kill Cersei. Sansa kindly tells her to shove it up her ass because both the Northmen and Dany's own soldiers need rest after the long night of retardation. Jon concedes to Dany like a whipped dog and tells her that the Northmen are with her and that they will obey their queen. Jon, it was Theon who lost his balls, not you. Then Arya and Sansa tell Jon to man the fuck up and meet them in the Godswood. They spend this entire fucking scene talking about how Daenerys isn't their queen and that Jon shouldn't bow to her whims and that he should rule the North. And Arya tells him that he's not a bastard and that he's always been her real brother. Jon knows this, of course, and he looks at Bran, who replies, "It's your choice," as he decides whether or not to tell his beloved sisters the truth about his birth. Bran's remark alerts Sansa and Arya that something is wrong, and then they pressure Jon for his secret. Jon concedes. He tells them, "There's something I need to tell you, but you need to swear not to tell anyone about this." They both swear to Jon that they'll keep it a secret. And then Jon asks Bran to go ahead and tell them, and then the scene just cuts away, then and there. What the actual fuck? What was the fucking payoff? You drag that fucking scene out, and you don't show us the reaction that Arya and Sansa had to the knowledge of their thought-to-be bastard brother is actually the heir to the entirety of the 7 fucking kingdoms? This reminds me very specifically of another moment with no payoff.
Where's Han?
Subversion, ladies and gentlemen. These two nutsacks are geniuses. After cutting away from that, we see Arya is back on the road as she meets up with the Hound, as they both have unfinished business in King's Landing. And in case you don't know what's happening, let me spell it out for you. Arya is going to kill Cersei, and the Hound is going to kill the Mountain. Which would be cathartic as all fuck, but the show is going to prevent that from happening via some stupid bullshit because subversion. The only thing that I enjoyed about this ridiculous, jarring edit of Arya teleporting out of the Godswood and back onto the road is her chemistry with the Hound. Not to mention she does this after learning her brother is king of the 7 kingdoms, and she leaves Winterfell without a fucking word to say on the matter. Fuck you, Dumb and Dumber. Fuck you. Sansa spills the beans to Tyrion, which I personally did not mind since Sansa hates Daenerys. But before teleporting to Dragonstone, because yes, teleporting is still in this fucking mess of a show, we see legions of Unsullied and Dothraki leaving Winterfell as if they weren't utterly obliterated or rode straight to their deaths in the previous fucking episode. But wait, these guys are geniuses, right? I thought these guys were geniuses. They're geniuses, aren't they? Aren't they No, they're fucking hacks. They think that you, the viewer, are so stupid and brainwashed that you won't think about it and you'll just eat this shit up. The Unsullied died so that the armies of the living could retreat into Winterfell. The Dothraki rode to their deaths for... Actually, they rode to their deaths for no reason at all. But now they have respawned because we need Dany to still stand a fucking chance against Cersei. Well, she would have stood a chance if you didn't retard the Dothraki out of the story to begin with, but we don't talk about that episode. Yeah, so the continuity is fucked, but at least they counted how many dragons are still left. Drogon is alive and Rhaegal is alive. Thank fuck they got that right. Until Dany teleports them back to Dragonstone, and Rhaegal gets triple shot sniped out of the fucking sky by Euron fucking Greyjoy, Dumb and Dumber's favorite fucking Deus Ex Machina. Subversion! Yeah, Rhaegal is now dead, and it's just glossed over before anyone has time to give a shit. I actually sat there in disbelief that they would kill off one of Dany's dragons in such a bullshit fucking manner. But they gotta even the odds and make the battle with Cersei's army even more super exciting and evenly balanced, right? This is one of those subversions that had me in disbelief, not because it was executed well, but because it was so utterly retarded. Euron hasn't been on screen since episode 1. So they, the showrunners, just bullshit him into Dragonstone without setup and have him wait for fucking Lord knows how many weeks for Daenerys to show up. And because it happens off screen, we just assume this motherfucker did it. There is no setup, no foreshadowing, no explanation. This man is a fucking magician. Not to mention, since when do these giant crossbows have instant fucking reload? Also, if Daenerys was up in the sky, how did she not see a fucking fleet of ships and warn her allies? How did they successfully hit 3 simultaneous shots on Rhaegal from miles away? But when Daenerys charges at the fleet, and they fire an entire volley at her, and she pussies out at the last minute, she is able to avoid every single one of those gigantic bolts. And so Daenerys, the Dragon Queen, fucking lives. Subversion and plot armor that is thick as fuck. This makes no fucking sense. Oh, and if you haven't caught on by now, when I yell subversion, I'm being sarcastic, just so you know. As soon as Daenerys' ships were on screen, I knew Euron would show his fucking face. It's just a question of when they bullshit him right next to them like they've done so many times before. The survivors of Euron's fleet attack wind up on the beaches of Dragonstone together, and Grey Worm realizes Missandei is missing. Who could have seen that coming? Also, Grey Worm is going to die. The episode was littered with Walking Dead syndrome. Whenever you see out-of-place character development, or when a character says, hey, one day let's have a home and children, that character is going to die. Okay, in fairness, I said it would be Grey Worm, but you get the point. Now we go back to Winterfell, where Jon is still sitting around with a thumb up his ass, still having not left for some reason. Though there is a nice scene between Tormund and Jon, two enemies turned quite near best friends, who are saying what appears to be their final farewell to one another. But here comes another subversion. Jon tells Tormund to take his beloved direwolf, Ghost, north of the wall with him. This makes no sense. Why would Jon release Ghost when he was at the fucking Night's Watch and he still kept the thing? This wolf is extremely precious to Jon, and a direwolf is the sigil of House Stark. Why the fuck wouldn't he leave it at Winterfell to watch over Sansa? He absolutely would, but Dumb and Dumber are so lazy and blew their budget hiring porn stars to have the funds to CGI Ghost into future episodes of this utterly fucking retarded TV show. Not only that, but Dumb and Dumber have the balls to repeat a tease from the Red Wedding as Sam and Gilly tell Jon that they've got a baby on the way, and that if it's a boy, they're gonna name it Jon.
Boy or girl?
But if it's a boy, I know what we should name him. Eddard. Don't you want to teach little Ned Stark how to ride horses?
Sam is going to die because subversion. Don't be surprised when it happens. Oh yeah, I missed a scene with Bronn and the Lannister brothers. I love all these characters, but this scene was so quick and casual that I pretty much forgot about it as soon as it happened. Much like Euron and Cersei, we hadn't seen Bronn since episode 1. And then he just appears out of nowhere and threatens Tyrion and Jaime and demands double Cersei's pay. And then they're like, yeah, alright. And Bronn leaves. What is happening in this show? I liked it better just thinking Bronn might actually pull the trigger on Jaime for failing to pay him over and over again. I thought he might do it during some time where Jaime is taking some peace and quiet. It still would have been retarded, but now the mystery element of Bronn is done for. Tyrion and Jaime are gonna pay him. Great. So they've taken the Rian Johnson approach again by saying that the payoff for our what is Bronn going to do theories is nothing. That's just wonderful. And speaking of Jaime, the writers actually have the nerve to give Jaime the redemption he's craved for years, shack him up with Brienne after knighting her to appease the masses of crazed romantics out there who have asked for this, and now they've just completely reverted him back to square one, and just have him tell Brienne to basically fuck off because he wants to bang his sister again. Look, I get that Jaime is somewhat addicted to Cersei. Hell, he had this conversation with Olenna Tyrell back in Season 7. But the whole point of his arc in Season 7 was to discover what a monster Cersei truly was. She lied about helping the living to survive against the dead, and was willing to let everyone die in order to keep her crown. Jaime left, not just out of defiance, for the monster that is his sister, but to honor his pledge. And now he's saying, fuck that, incest for life. Thanks, Dumb and Dumber. Consider myself subverted. I never thought Jaime would be such a weak fucking bitch. Dumb and Dumber like to tease development and then backtrack, essentially rendering the development pointless. Look no further than Alistair Thorne, another awesome character that Dumb and Dumber butchered. He starts off hating Jon Snow. He hates him up until the Wildling attack, where he becomes somewhat of a likable character, and even shows Jon a modicum of respect. Then in Season 5, when Jon names him First Ranger, throughout the season they tease that Sir Alistair might actually have found some new faith in Jon, and will side with him against his struggles. Then in the last moment of Season 5, it's Alistair Thorne who is the first to stab Jon Snow. Because subversion! Get fucked, Dumb and Dumber. Now we cut back to Daenerys, her resurrected Unsullied army, her advisors including Tyrion, and Drogon, who for some reason is chasing a fucking butterfly in the open field. And all of this is happening outside the walls of King's Landing. all of which are manned with giant crossbows that were just shown to be capable of shooting dragons out of the sky, but apparently can't hit stationary targets on the ground right in front of them. Are you fucking kidding me? Why aren't you firing those giant crossbows and killing the dragon and the fucking dragon queen, you idiots? This is Dumb and Dumber wiping their testicles across the screen with a blatant fuck you to the audience. I have never seen such ridiculous plot armor in my life. Not only that, but just 10 minutes ago, they showed Daenerys bullshit her way out of an unsurvivable situation she put herself in. And don't get me started on episode fucking 3. I have no idea how this meeting was made. It shows a war council and Varys questioning his loyalty to Daenerys, but no information as to what the fuck they're doing there. We know that they're there for Missandei, but why would they be standing in open field waiting for their deaths? I always thought Dany was stupid, but this time Dumb and Dumber have just made her fucking retarded. They've turned Tyrion into a moron. A brave moron, sure, but a fucking moron nonetheless, when he's supposed to be one of the smartest people in the world. Tyrion agrees to parley with Qyburn in open field. When he's done reasoning with him and realizes that it's pointless, he then walks up to a fully manned castle wall with giant crossbows and rows of archers, commanded by the most loathsome person in all the Seven Kingdoms who wants to see him dead more than anything. The tension here is all fake. In order to create tension, they have these normally intelligent and ruthless characters do very stupid things to make the audience grip their seats. And then for no reason in the world, Cersei calls off her archers and allows Tyrion to live. Why? Cunt, you've been bitching about having him killed for season after season of this show, and now you just decide, yeah, nah. Season 7 was stupid, but at least there was a good reason for her to spare Tyrion. This is about as inconsistent as a character can be. Cersei is an opportunist and will take any advantage she can get. If she's confident that they can win, why the hell didn't she kill Tyrion? The whole scene is fucked from start to finish. I can appreciate Tyrion's plea to Cersei, but the setup is so piss poor. The reasons behind how this chain of events takes place is unbelievably retarded, and the payoff, what's the payoff? Okay, there's one small payoff. Missandei getting her head chopped off was personally satisfying. Never liked the way her character mouthed off. I can't have been the only one to have found her irritating, right? And like I said, when characters start planning their lives together, that is a clear sign that they are going to die, so don't tell me you weren't surprised. Emilia Clarke, once again for a second straight episode, actually emoted very well. Maybe it's just because we are used to seeing Dany being such a hard bitch most of the time. We never see her desperate or feel the need to express any emotion. So as far as some small bright spots for Season 8 go, I'd say Emilia Clarke's acting is among some of the very few. But this episode was god-awful. And honestly, some of the blatant incompetence was actually worse than the previous episode. At least with episode 3, there was so much spectacle and noise on the screen that much of the bullshit was hidden on first viewing. But with this episode, it honestly felt like The Last Jedi. The retardation was so in your face, and it banks on the audience just suckling its teat blindly and calling it good. But anyone with half the normal brain capacity to think will notice this stuff. Hell, I held a small community post and had dozens of comments informing me of people's grievances with the episode. Like, I noticed a shit ton of wrong with this episode when I first saw it, but I couldn't believe just how much I'd missed. So thank you to all those people. And of course, fuck you, Dumb and Dumber. But the night is darkest just before the dawn, and no, wait, the night is already past. I swear I keep forgetting. I guess it was because it was such a fucking joke. But yes, what I'm trying to say is that we only have 2 episodes left, and it's finally over. Thank goodness. And thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time.